Hello and welcome once again to White Lotus of Light interview series. And I am thrilled and honored to have the illustrious Grant Eagles back on the show. We had a great, albeit very strange, even for me, conversation last time. I love it. I love it. I mean, it's like way up my alley, but I don't often get to have this kind of conversation with someone who can kind of weave all those different esoteric and mystical threads together the way that Grant can. And so when I have a fellow tapestry weaver like that, we can really go places. And so I just want to take a second and say, if you enjoy the content and you like giving people like Grant the opportunity to have a voice and get out there even further, get his message, just get his BS out there, as I'm sure Grant would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Then, just hit a like and subscribe, and I can get more fantastic guests like Grant, who I have the utmost respect for. I just is being ridiculous. So yeah, hit that like and subscribe button. I won't mention it again. And with that, I'm just going to launch into it. Grant, I see you're rocking Mjolnir around your neck. Is that right? Is that
bit of Mjolnir and some gold and some silver and shit. So yeah, man.
That looks fantastic. So boy, I mean, it was just recently that I had you on, but a lot of crazy stuff in the news. And you posted something today that caught my eye. You said something about how kind of this ongoing cluster F of a pandemic is largely driven by PR firms and narrative and messaging rather than necessarily science and government. And you said something that caught my eye. You said the de-evolution marker. Do you want to kind of like be careful, of course, of the nasty words the algorithm say? I already said one of them.
Yeah. We've got that covered. Well, for me, I've been watching this stuff for a long time, yeah. And I've been lucky enough to have some people that are part of the backside stuff and can see the way that they things go. And for me, a few months ago now, it would have been in July, that really started to see the narrative had fallen apart. Okay, so the media, the talking heads, so to speak, the self-proclaimed experts, it had fallen apart. Their psychic driving wasn't working anymore. People's programming was actually breaking, and I was like, awesome. And we could start to see that with generally everybody. The psychic driving's been full on, because let's face it, we're in the middle of a ritual and it's sacrificial. Are you going to be sacrificed by your masters who treat you as a slave, or are you going to sacrifice yourself on your own altar and realize things that you once were a part of in this system, it's time to walk away from? And all the rest of that type of stuff, we can get into that. But for me, the devolution side of things, I know that word gets thrown a lot around with the T-man and all the rest of it, but for me, the devolution is all of these systems of domination and control falling in on the weight of themselves. And watching the public relations and the marketing drive, you're now starting to see that the politicians have never had any power. They never have. It's the bureaucrats behind them, and now you're starting to see that, and the lobbyists and all the rest of it. So you're really starting to see who is the placeholders of so-called governments. But now they're at a point as well where they are still more fearful of the power that runs behind them than we the people. So we're at this kind of standoff at the moment. And the more that this standoff goes, the more things are falling apart, like the whole Omicron thing and all the rest of that. A lot of people are pointing and going, it's just a distraction for the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff, which is, you would look at that and go, yes, that's right. But when you understand that the narrative and the public relations and the bureaucrats, they're running a script and they're not going to stop. Jordan Peterson said it brilliantly a few years ago, where You push and push and push, then they protest, and then you hold. And then the protests disseminate in a week. And then you push and push and push again, and you push and push and push again, and you push and push and push. Well, what they've done in the last 12 months is they haven't pushed, is that they've railroaded people basically into a corner. And the talking heads and all the rest of it, now nobody is paying attention. Whether people want to class them as liars or everything. So you're now seeing the gatekeepers of the media and the spellcasters. It's no longer working anymore. You know, the fear button, it's ran out of batteries. So we're at this point right now is, what do we, the people, decide to do individually, not collectively, because collectively it just always turns to shit. But do we decide to go, you know what? It's a time of sacrifice. I'm no longer going to be sacrificed for this system of domination control that has been running around for thousands of years, feeding off us. I'm now going to sacrifice my own self and walk a path of selfhood in LORE, law, not, oh, I'm going to hold these people accountable to law, because you're not going to get justice in a just us system, which is they're still in control of. So that's what I mean. I read this kind of a marker for me to see where things go over the next little period of time.
Wow, that's very well said and interesting. I especially like the part of, and when you say sacrifice yourself on the altar, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying to sort of sacrifice those little aspects of your lower self that have been sort of shaped and molded by this fear and domination system, and instead what emerges then from that is a truer portion of yourself. Is that right? Or are you saying literally?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll add on that a little bit. Like, we've, from before the cot, yeah, when we were in the womb, we were front loaded with programs and subconscious beliefs and all the rest of it, and who we think we are. We have never really investigated that. We've always looked at the mirror or the lens of the front loading systems coming at us. And those systems now are continually telling that you're insane if you don't believe what we're telling you. And that there has all fallen apart. All of it. So now what do people do? Want to keep fighting that and keep going around that mental loop, or go, you know what? I'm done. Yeah, you know what? I may need to not have my job for a period of time, or what actually is it that I'm going to do in accordance to LORE? I'm a law and a constitution by myself. And where I speak is based upon my principles and where I stand, you know, exercise that energy rather than just going along to get along. Like, you know, the idea of, oh, I'm just going to go get it so I'm allowed to travel. Are you fucking insane?
I know.
You know, like, what that's what you are sacrificing who you are. Like, you have given all of your power away to an external authority. And the moment that you can't get your way in this shiny, need things to happen now, is that's really where we're at. And those revelations are a huge part of next year. Like, the real pandemic will be next year, but it will also be a psychological fallout.
What do you mean? What do you mean by the real pandemic will be next year? I'm just curious.
Okay, cool. Well, we can go there with that. Is just have a look at your own, and for the listeners as well, your own direct area of influence, the people that you know. So in relation to the beer bug, how many people did you actually know inside your circle that actually got it and went through the psychic driving spellcasting machine of all of the fake numbers and all the rest of it? Or now, how many people do you know that have gone and had the treatment that have had an effect to it, or those types of things?
I see what you mean. Yeah.
That now is increasing at an exponential rate. Like in the US, you just need to have a look at Vermont, okay, which is, I think it's the most treatment state, where, you know, same as Israel, we've got very similar things happening here in Oz and all around the world. The gatekeepers have lost their ability to keep that a secret and tell everybody that they're crazy now.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. The floodgates are really at this point where when it breaks, it's going to really break open to many different things and go to many different areas.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will still be looking at, front side stuff of like, oh, CCP, this, that, and the other, but not really understanding the true totality of there is a whole nother system behind all of these things. And they're going to scapegoat and sacrifice their own people. This is what I mean. We're in lots of people are calling it a spiritual war, but what are you sacrificing? Are you walking into somebody else's realm and being slaughtered on the altar of their rights, their words? Or are you going, no, I will choose my own destiny in my own divine will accordance and be able to see things as they are and not emotionally react? And this is where the big part about this in a much grander thing is that we have more of a female principle that is integrating on the planet. We've been in a very masculine dominated thing for a long period of time. Hence, when you have a look at Mark Pacio's work is brilliant on this, and he called this out years ago. Like, you have a look at feminism and all the rest of that stuff very early on was to twist the females into being males and, all the rest of this type of stuff. So the true flow of energy is not going to be able to come through when you are not open and you've actually got preloaded programs in and want to be in a fight or flight and need things to happen right now without playing things out in the real laws, LORE, that dictate this realm.
So you keep saying, are you saying LORE like lore?
Yep.
Okay. Well, man,
think about it as more natural law. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Your word is bond. Okay. So what you speak, you do. You do not speak ill of yourself. We have a look at the way that we utilize language. Is how much black magic do we use upon ourselves that is front loaded into us?
Right.
Particularly, I suppose, I've been calling it out for a while. We have a lot of people now that are picking up the Bible and want to be all, honky-dory and calling out Satanism and black magic and all the rest of it. But they're still perpetuating black magic by the very invocations they're using in reference to language and being blinded by their own light without no integration or being able to see things as they really are and then choosing accordingly. They want to get all virtuous and repeat the exact same thing, just a different version of it that is being done to them.
Right. It's so true. I've noticed that, and it's very troubling. I mean, one of the things that's really struck me in the last few months is just, as more and more people wake up to things like, all these FIFA players keeling over dead, like on the pitch, in front of tens of thousands of fans. And then they are saying just incredible stuff like, the same genetics that allow you to be a better athlete cause you to be more likely to have strokes and blood clots and heart attacks. And I'm like, yeah, because remember all those Olympics and World Cups and Super Bowls that we had to stop in the middle because someone fell over dead? No, right, because that never fucking happened. They're just making that up out of whole cloth. They're saying it's cold weather. They're saying it's weed. They're saying it's, the weather change thing that they try to always, railroad everyone into, the Greta Thunberg crap. And so it's nonsense. But what's been interesting is a lot of people are waking up now and having to, and I'm not saying this in a pejorative sense, but they're really having to sort of catch up to those of us who've been aware of the fact that there's a back end, the fact that there's stuff going on behind the scenes that's the driver of what you're seeing that's actually result. People think the political process they can see is the driver when it's actually theater of a result of what's already been determined behind the scenes. And so, for people who are just waking up to all this stuff, there's also a dizzying like labyrinth of disinformation, bullshit, people lying, people just trying to sell their book, nonsense everywhere you turn. And then, of course, there's a lot of scapegoating of certain very narrow groups that then don't look at the actual power structures but again, are just very surface level things that tap into people's like lower emotional triggers. So that way they can have, everyone wants something easy. Everyone wants it. It's just this one group. If we just got rid of left-handed pro basketball players, I'm just being silly because I don't want to say any of the target groups, that then therefore we would instantly be free and it would be a utopia. And that's why we have to kill them all. Raw. And I'm like, well, the fact that you want to kill them all and do the same things to them, and you're calling out these emergent camps, but then you want to create camps. How is that like an actual advancement? You're just turning the wheel around to where it's exact reflection of the same thing that you're decrying. And I, of course, agree with you. I don't like any of the stuff that's happening, but I'm noticing a lot of when people are waking up, people are very angry. It's one of the first stages of grief is anger, and people have a right to be angry. Look at what's happening. It's absolutely horrifying what's happening. I mean, I've seen this coming for almost 20 years now, and very close to 20 years now, because it was around this time of year in 2001 and then a little bit into 2002 when I really started to go deep on a lot of this stuff and started to figure out a lot of it. And I thought I had to be insane, but I couldn't look away from the facts that I was discovering and the way it just all made sense, even though it was absolutely horrifying and insane. And then I think of all the falsehoods I had to navigate during that period of time, and just all the discernment it took, and how I had a model and then I realized it was wrong and I had to throw that away, and then develop a new model and realize that was wrong and throw it away. And now I'm to the point to where I have a model, but I hold it kind of loosely because I've been duped so many frickin' times. I've been wrong so many times. And I also realize that certain aspects of it just don't matter. It doesn't matter whether I know the exact specific of the Bilderberg group tells Davos, which then tells this media mogul. I don't need a perfect flow chart of how the system works in order to understand that there's this system that's deliberately turning and pitting us all against each other and harvesting our energy and so forth. And so I think that one of the things that viewers, if you're newer to sort of waking up to what's going on, which now it's hard to miss because it's right in our face. And I mean, kudos to you if you've woken up at any point, doesn't matter when you do it, but be aware there is decades upon decades, if not centuries or millennia of disinfo to hide and obfuscate the real powers that be, if you will, which actually am of a personal belief are non-human and perhaps even non-physical in nature, meaning spirits, or that it's a spiritual struggle, as you mentioned before. And don't go for anything that's easy, that's scapegoating. If it's easy and scapegoating, that's not it. That I can tell you with certainty. I couldn't tell you this is what's going on. I know it for certain, but I do know a lot of the things that are bullshit, and that I could tell you. But we could probably spend a week or two talking about all the disinfo to distract people here, there, everywhere, and get people focused off this internal work that you were talking about earlier. And I think that that's really the only thing that you can truly know is your inner landscape and what's going on internally, and doing that work. And that will do more to disrupt that system than anything you can do running out there, and especially getting angry or blaming the wrong group. Sorry to kind of go off on a rant there, but
yeah, man, you got on a good flow there. That was good. Spot on, mate. Spot on. This is what I mean. Like, I've been pretty strong in my language about it. It's pissed a few people off, but I'm more interested in real shit and all the rest of it. But
right,
2022, man, is going to be fucking massive.
I agree.
Like you were speaking about the anger, like the anger is already there, but so many folks have been really conditioned to their own programming with all of that, where it's like they're going to react in a very emotional way that has been psychic driven into them, rather than being able to stop for a moment and actually listen to some folks that are a little bit further on down the line. Many folks now want to jump on YouTube, watch an hour and become an overnight expert, speak about it, which is fine. Like, it's part of the journey. We'll do that, yeah. When you really understand the mechanisms, like, you need to be reading. You really need to be reading, because this has more to do with psychological terrorism,
yes,
upon you, that then corrupts this skin suit that you're in, which you're an avatar, right? And if that isn't really working properly and it has programs and mind inserts and a whole range of different things, your belief and your subconscious can only take you so far, and you're not going to be able to step outside of yourself, what you were talking about, and go, shit, I was half right, but I got half wrong, and be able to lay on that sword. And as you know, I learned the hard way as well, mate. Hence why I didn't really do any talking or anything for many years, because I was like, fuck, there's more stuff to get into here and follow my own breadcrumbs. But you can box yourself into a corner that you can't get out. And one of the things that, I really look at the moment, and, God bless them, is the whole flat earth situation, where a lot of people have really jumped into that. And
I almost brought that up a minute ago, Grant. I'm sorry, it's just a crazy synchronicity.
Can't have a conversation, because they'll connect absolutely everything into that. And the moment you go, we do understand that was a DARPA program that came out to create divide. But I look at that and step out of myself and be like, right now, doesn't really matter.
Right. Thank you.
Okay,
this is almost word for word what I was just saying today. I got into it with the flat earthers today because I was so frustrated by it. It drives me bonkers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, doesn't really matter right now. How much time are you wasting? And you're not able to see what is really taking place here, because we're in the changeover years. Yeah. This realm is changing in every single system that you've ever had an attachment to, that you've ever been codependent on, and all the rest of it. And if you've still got a rebellious nature, which we do, where you want to stick to something and drive yourself home and be like, the echo chamber is that it's this and it's that. And it's like, well, you can do all the research and stuff like that you want. But if you were to put your evil genius hat on, right, if you were part of the backside, which way would you play it? The exact way that is being played really at the moment, and I really don't care about that subject. Like, I've had my own experiences with that's fine. And you have a listen to others that, are in the deep woo side of things, and they will say the same thing. But when it gets jumped upon, and then you jump in Tartaria, like, I have a look at the Tartaria stuff, and I'm like, people have
this is eerie because I just was talking about all of this with people actually in the past 24 hours. This is an incredible synchronicity for me. I've noticed both those things have been, I mean, they're getting pushed. They're getting pushed so people get distracted and fall off, the ritual.
Well, what it does show, when you really break it down, and you realize that history isn't history, is that we've been through a few resets already. Yeah, we really have. There are a lot of things out of place in many different places. But if you're trying to look at history to validate yourself with, but at the very same time that you've got the idea or the belief that history is all wrong, but you're still going to history to validate your own thinking, come on, light bulb moment, switch on. Yeah, really switch on. Can you not see the program? You're trying to go to something to validate a belief, but you have another belief that is counterproductive of it, going, I don't believe in history, but I'm going to utilize history to verify my belief. Like, that there is that mental insert and that churning. Where is that energy going? That is that displacement. It ends up to negative psychic debris that ends up in the outer layer of your field, and somebody comes and has a feed. Like, can we, over this next period of time, which is going to be really important, to hold two completely counterproductive ideas, beliefs of knowing, and accept the fact that I really don't know at the moment, and I'm going to need to leave that on the altar. Because when we can do that, you can sit there and look at it and go, oh, yeah, I can connect the dots or whatever, but also go, is it really important for me right now to be spending my energy and focus into that area? What is universe, spirit, mystery actually guiding me towards, and to have a look at? Or do I want to keep on going into these controlled programs that are there on purpose to keep us entertained? Because there is no difference between sitting in front of Netflix and watching 20 fucking seasons of Vampire Diaries or whatever the fuck it is, and then going, oh, I don't believe in that shit anymore. Now I'm going to jump into YouTube and research all of these different things. And it's like, come on now. What is really important now? You know, it's, yeah. And that's what I mean. Like we were speaking at the start, you know, there's a few other markers that I'm looking for in the next, 2 to 3 weeks. And one of them has to do over there. One of them I seen today, just before we got on the call, was Biden and Harris at that funeral or whatever. Biden walks past Harris and Harris is there. They don't look at each other, but you can see the body language. Something's going on there. And Biden goes to sit or stand next to her, and then he switches positions with his missus. So this is what I mean. The control mechanisms now are just, they're at free fall. We've got Evergrande that apparently went through default last night. So that's what I mean. All of these systems that are backed up on front of each other will just be like boom, 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 boom. And if we're caught in the hysteria of needing to prove our beliefs with the old world, we're actually going to miss the opportunity to slip through all of that.
Yeah.
This is, we speak magical thinking at the moment, is that there is pathways with next year that will open for you to just stop for a moment and go, I can get angry and act out emotionally, or I can stop for a moment and look at it myself and go, I contributed to all of this. Go through my own grieving process and go, I'm no longer going to do that now. I'm going to go in a completely different way. And if I need to keep my mouth shut for a fucking month to change my neuroplasticity and all the rest of that stuff, which takes 28 fucking days, well, I need to have a look at these types of things here, because we're at a point in our evolution, devolution. Do we want to continue being an animal human, or do we want to step into actually what a human is about? And the crux to all of this that I'm saying, and Alex Collier bangs it right on the head. And the way that he says it is that somehow we are at our best when shit hits the fan. We're able to get out of all of our own bullshit and just get in. And that's what I mean. Like, the pathway for me is it needs to be devolution, because all ego, all the rest of the other things, the Joneses and the Smiths and all of those fucking programs, we're going to sit there and go, okay. Because the hardest, I'll speak about myself for a moment, because, this goes back to like 2011, is I couldn't live with myself anymore. To the point, like, I had my life set. It was all in front of me. It was fucking going to be kosher. I kept on having this fucking reoccurring dream and some other shit go on. But it got to a point where I could no longer, in my bones, play that program of the Joneses and the Smiths and stuff like that anymore. And I got angry to the point of, why is everybody still doing this? But at the same time too, I'm like, I can't get angry because I don't know any other way. And I chose a completely different thing. And that was me sacrificing myself continually and going into realms of absolute unknown, mind-bending, twisting craziness to get to a point of, okay, there's other things that are outside of the system of domination control, matrix, if you want to call it, that I can be in the game and change it, but also be on the other side of it and start to play in a very more transient, you could say almost shamanic way of being able to play, and there's a lot of people don't like the book, but I highly recommend for everybody to go and read 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. In that book, it's very Machiavellian. But when you understand that book and you're like, okay, that is a framework upon how the mental psychology of power has been functioning for a considerable amount of time. how I choose to implement or think strategically, Machiavellian or whatever, is going to give me many different ways of viewing things rationally before my emotions that are hooked into my beliefs that just I react to and then I start to run with without seeing the opportunity that really is at hand for exactly as it is. And that's not easy.
Yeah, it's such a, emotional mastery is something that that kind of segues into something I was gonna want to share with you. Emotional mastery is something that's come up again and again for me, especially in the past 6 months as I've been doing really heavy. I'm a Vedic astrologer. I'm also doing a lot of theurgic angelic magic, and I've been even working now with the second sphere of the angelic hierarchy and making my way up to the first sphere. So like dominions, powers, and virtues. And when I was in ritual earlier today, and I'm working with dominions right now, which is the highest choir of the second sphere. And they actually said, by the way, Grant, to say to you that you are blessed by the celestial realms, and wanted me to say that to you on there.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. And
thank you.
This process has been constantly causing me to change and transform, and having to leave my old self behind doing this magical process. And it's been, it's had a lot of external effects, of course, but what I've moved more and more towards is the external effects are just a secondary thing. The primary work and where my interest lies in what it's doing to me internally. And one of the things that's come up again and again and again from the angels and from the spirits is the importance of emotional mastery. And that doesn't mean that you're an emotionless robot. Quite the opposite. In fact, like a lot of, we talked last time, and it kind of segues, but ties back into what we were talking about earlier about potentially scapegoat groups. One of them is the Freemasons. A lot of people like to believe that the Freemasons are the end all be all. The buck stops there. That's it. That they're the ones who run everything, which anyone who knows Freemasons knows that that's nonsense. It doesn't mean there's very powerful Freemasons. There certainly are. But most of them are just regular people. And then some of them are political, and some of them are very good, and some of them are political, and some of them are quite nasty. I mean, it's a group of humans. But they have a symbol within Freemasonry that I want to talk about, and that is the apron. And the apron goes right over the stomach. And the symbol, what that is symbolizing is that you have, or should have anyway, mastered your emotions, because emotions are also symbolized by the element of water. And water is, your guts are filled with water. It's kind of like the most watery part of your body is from the rib cage down. And so esoteric and secret societies, mystery schools for forever have preached the mastering of emotions, not the becoming an emotionless robot, but mastering it. Martial arts, the same way. Bruce Lee loved to talk about mastering your emotions, because if you don't, your opponent will use it against you. And so when people talk about emotional mastery, a lot of people in the West hear, repress your emotions, the way especially like the English do, or to some degree happens in America. And that's not what it is. It's about your emotions are like an ocean within you. And it's becoming that surfer that can ride the wave of however the emotions come up and express, you're riding it on that point of equilibrium. And that way you get the power of the emotion, which is a very powerful thing. That's why the back end manipulator people constantly try and trigger your emotions, is because of the power that surges up through you. It's like a big cresting tidal wave. But the mastery of it is that you are able to ride that emotion and to be able to move with it in a way that's useful, instead of just being slapped around and thrown around by the internal currents or internal waves that are moving through you. And so I've had to just be in this constant state of, it's been longer than 10 years, and I've had a period of time of real stagnation that happened between 2015 and 2017. I had a real stagnant period in my life, but I've had to keep going back and keep moving beyond myself. And I almost don't even recognize myself anymore at this point. Like if I was to talk to myself from like 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be like, who the hell are you? And like, what? No, I don't even know if I want to become that. But I've never been happier with who I am. And I also actually have less of a sense. I have a deeper sense of who I am, and yet a less of a like tight grip of this is who I am. I'm this and this and this and this and this. It's more of a I don't know, it's something that has a movement and emotion to it without it being so rigid and structured as it once was. And so much of that has been exactly this process you've been talking about throughout this, chat, where you're talking about you got to sacrifice yourself on the altar. And I know what you mean by that. I suspected and then confirmed that what you mean by that is sacrificing that which is no longer serving, and that which was never actually serving. It was serving someone else or something else. And what you're really talking about is getting down to that core of who you are, to where you can be of true service to yourself and others. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but would you say that that last bit is accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the graveyard is full of all the people who I thought I was. And
Yeah,
we want to know things before they happen. And when we
right.
rip apart those layers, we don't like to be comfortable in not knowing. But in the not knowing opens us up to all possibilities. The only thing, our limitation is our imagination. And if our imagination has still got programs and all the rest of that type of stuff running in it from, the front loaded software, which, is a worldwide mind, MK Ultra trauma-based mind control. If you are triggered, you're going to go straight into your trauma reactions.
Right.
That's the way that this game has been working. So that's what I mean. Once again, just that next year is that so many folks that have got underlying traumas and all the rest of that have been running facades of different personalities that they've had to create or split are going to just.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like I've been getting similar messages that things are about to, really ramp up. I actually am going to be, by the time this video comes out, I will have already put it up. I channeled the virtues earlier, and the virtues are the angelic sphere that rules healing and also prophecy. And they very much talked about so many of the things you've said, that things are starting to crumble over its own weight. They've completely lost control of the narrative. I noticed them losing it over the summer, but now it's getting ridiculous to where people are like, you can almost see people, if they're even real people on Twitter or whatever, like actively trying to gaslight themselves and, taking a giant thing of blue pills, to quote the Matrix, and like stuffing them down and like, oh, I don't want to think. I'm starting to think, oh God. You can see that even the real diehards who believe the mainstream narrative are really starting to sweat and crack under the pressure of just the array of facts in front of you, showing that it's all a bunch of bullshit. And that has implications that are staggering, because put aside for a minute the side effects of the medical treatment that we've talked about, which is going to be huge. I mean, it's already starting, but that's going to be really huge over the next couple of years. But the psychological implications of a ton of people all at once going, oh my God, we've been had, and not a little bit, haha, someone took $100 from me, but kind of like my entire life has been a lie. Yeah. That is a lot of cognitive dissonance that's going to cause a volcanic eruption. I don't even know how that's going to play out, but being fleet of foot and having emotional mastery, like you say, to find those little crevices is going to be key. Go ahead and respond to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, mate. Like it's, part of my sadistic grand is like really looking at that going, wow, like this is, Arkham Asylum. Like, and I'm standing on the hill. I'm standing on the hill outside the town going, wow, like, okay, like this is really new territory. Even to the point where a lot of folks have, got up to speed really quickly, but you can't outrun the shadow. They've got a belief, but everything you're doing is not in accordance to the new knowing that they have. And it's fucking massive, mate. Absolutely massive in all of that undertaking, and that's, another marker for me too was when Metaverse came out.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So many folks now will not want to deal with this reality because of what's about to happen, and will plug themselves in and can be a pronoun fucking penguin or whatever that situation is. you know, because their program has been so warped and inverted and been, you know, they've got participation trophies their whole life. There's no such thing as tough love. There is no facts. You know, my emotions are facts and all the rest of these things. Like,
right.
For a laugh, there's an Instagram page. It's Libs on TikTok. Insane. Like some of the shit you see there, and there's folks there that actually have that thinking. I'm all cool. Yeah, you go that, but don't sit there in your thinking that you can tell me what to do because it might hurt your feelings or someone. It's like it's madness. And this is what I mean. A lot of those folks are now going to want to go into another world, into the metaverse, where they can play these types of things out. It's what I mean. We're in for a fucking buckle up because we're in it, you know. And there's those, you can say it's almost like three paths of choosing. You know, and I've been pretty big in the language of this. I think I said it in the last one that we did, is that we're all at the moment, the theme right now until like January, February, is that we're coming to understand the choices that we've already made. Some of us are through that, and we're actually acting out the choices and changing our principles and, you know, what we're actually doing. You know, and you have a look at in ancient times where you've got, you know, Atlantis, you've got Mu, and then you've got Lemuria. So there's those three different parts where people were able to utilize technology with their consciousness for the benefit of certain things, but not relied upon it, still remain natural. Atlantis went, you know, let's go fucking play with technology and fuck everything up and genetics. We had a lot of others that decided to be more indigenous and work with the earth. And we're at that time again. There's a lot of folks at the moment, and God bless them, that have been in very urban areas and going, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go now and go live off the grid. And I'm sitting there and going, that's a cool decision, but what skills do you have to be able to do that? Like, can you hunt? No. Do you know how to build? No. How hard is it? You know, all the rest of these things. And it's like, still this pendulum of, oh, this is happening, emotionally reacting, fuck it, I'm going to go in the other area. And it's like, hang on a moment, like what you were saying, your emotional mastery of being able to stay in your boat and do everything possible to stay in the eye of the storm so that you're able to move with it. And then as it participates, your boat is still intact. You haven't fucked around and the storm goes and you're there like fucking, what's his face? Castaway, yeah, on a little raft, fucking out in the middle, you know, like waiting for another ship to come and save you. Like, you know, we're really at that time now, and these are the strategies that we need to be employing first and foremost to ourselves. And you know, it's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, I foresee that in a few years' time things are going to be much better. But I just I definitely feel for people. You know, I've had, like I said, I've had 20 years to some degree to come to grips, I guess, emotionally, especially with that this time that's now unfolding was you know coming, and I still am like, some days I just especially the stuff around kids, you know, like kids where they're going to get this treatment, you know, that we're talking about, you know, and those families and parents who are making that decision and so forth. Sometimes the children aspect of this whole thing is just really difficult for me, and I have to take a step back and think about karma and the Atman is immortal and that kind of thing, and go into a Advaita Hindu kind of perspective, because the magnitude of what's happening is just, it's staggering. And I mean, one of the things it does is it does let you know that we really are at the mercy, in a certain sense, of far greater forces. And that's humbling. And that's actually a good thing, because as you were just pointing out with the weird TikTok thing and the people wanting to go into the metaverse, which I actually was told in prophecy. I mean, I had heard the word before and knew it was in the works, but I was told in prophecy like 2 weeks before Facebook made the big metaverse announcement, that people were going to be doing exactly what you said, plugging into the metaverse. But that is, to me, a representation of what's already happened internally, which is that these egos have just swollen and distorted to incredible levels, you know. And I feel like, man, I've been doing all this work for so long. I've been on the spiritual path and, you know, seeking truth and all this stuff for 20 years. And I still feel kind of almost, I don't want to say woefully unprepared, because actually I feel really prepared, but I'm still, I guess, shaken by what I see unfolding, just the sheer magnitude of it and what it means for our species. One thing I don't worry about anymore is I don't worry about the planet anymore. That's going to take care of itself. But boy, like, how is our species going to cope? What's our civilization going to look like in the future? And on that note, I wanted to ask you, I've noticed quite a bit of narrative manager stuff about space related things. Did you see this? Did you see this story about how the Chinese rover found some anomalous cube-shaped object in a crater on the dark side of the moon? Did you see that? Yeah, that's prepping to me.
Well, even like you have a look at it, like even last year, like if you have a look at, I think it was October last year, like all October, you know, the Pentagon released some files, the UK, a couple of years before that, you had somebody who was an Israeli political minister talking about galactic, you know, so
that was wild.
And, you know, one for me was, you know, and this is what I mean, it's good, but a lot of people run with it too quick rather than go, hang on, let's speak to someone who knows the occult, is the eclipse that we just had. Yeah. It's significant with Draco, and it was all over Antarctica. Who was down in Antarctica? You had Christina Lagarde, you had fucking Satan himself, the dude who runs the World Economic.
Oh, Klaus Schwab.
Okay. And Christina Lagarde. Yeah.
Really?
And then you had the dude who's basically a head honcho with XRP.
No way.
So
like Ripple or whatever?
That's correct.
Why is Ripple, like, of all the cryptocurrencies, it's like the occult, esoteric, weirdo crypto Ripple is?
Yeah, well, it's the only,
like
it's the only
conspiracy
crypto. It's the only one at the moment that's got all the deals done with the bank. So I see that and I'm like, okay, that's a signal that they're ready to try and that system is about to change. Which way are they going to go? And this is what I mean. We're at this point where we're watching, you know, backside forces that were once joined together are now falling apart. You know, like it's a schmozzle, and it is all crumbling because I need to get things done in very sequences of time. But getting back to what you're talking about, is that there was an article again last week, and it's recycled, but it's brought up to speed that Antarctica was once a flourishing rainforest. You know, and you hear of all the stories with the Nazis and all the rest of this type of stuff, and all of the things is like there is something major about to come out from that stuff.
Yeah, and you think they're going to reveal something from Antarctica soon? I mean, I've been smelling that.
I like to look at the language of things, and have a look at a lot of the flat earthers with Antarctica is the wall around everything. Like you keep on hearing Antarctica, 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 Antarctica. But when you actually have a look at Antarctica, which I find fascinating, is that have a look at how big that land is.
Massive.
Massive. And the other thing as well is that it's on all the ice and stuff like that is on mountains. Like it's a mountainous region. And two reports, scientists as well, are saying the ice that is freezing down there is a lot of it is turning into vapor. Okay, vapor, not water. What's going on, you know, like down there with these types of things? And when you have a look at the planet as well, you're like, okay, most of the water is around the equator. And when you go into the blue, you're seeing people all around the equator, particularly Mexico, taking photos of different shit in the sky, whether they be different planets or whether they be fucking, you know, there's so many things. So it's like that there is the undercurrent of things, and the gatekeepers have lost control. They're going to need to bring out something very big and very spectacular in a ways to go, okay, and they can't do it in a way now that's going to confirm the conspiracy theorists. Yeah, that's what I mean. Many different things to really play themselves out. It's it's going to be fun because you've got counter narratives trying to run for position as well. It's fucking fascinating to watch. Fascinating.
It's interesting. That's crazy. I'm gonna have to look that up about Christine Lagarde, Klaus Schwab, and the inventor or CEO or whatever of Ripple, which Ripple has been very weird. Like, you know, always I see it, like everybody talks about it, and it's like the weird hidden, I don't know, like conspiracy theory of all the cryptos is Ripple, and none of the other ones are quite that way. I mean, the closest would be Tether, is quite strange, you know, the stable coin that where they just put it out there, and basically the entire crypto world is built on this thing that's questionable. And I have some crypto, of course, but getting back to the Antarctica thing, there was this story that came out a few years ago where this huge anomalous series of pulses of some kind of electromagnetic radiation came out like pulsed beams from Antarctica. And there was no, they couldn't deny it because so many different like universities and whatever had seen it, that it was something they couldn't just outright say, oh no, that didn't happen. I mean, they might try nowadays, but back then they still had a grain of integrity and wouldn't try to gaslight to that degree like they're doing right now. You know, I guess they weren't as desperate back then. But anyways, this story was out in tons of reputable news sources, and it just was very, very, very curious. And one of the most interesting theories I heard was that, you know, this is around the time that also that Buzz Aldrin went down there, and he had a weird tweet that went up and then was deleted, and then people said, oh no, that was photoshopped and whatever. But he definitely left there with some kind of heart condition. That absolutely happened. And like weird stuff like John Kerry went down there, and
that's what I mean.
The archbishop of, or not archbishop, but the close to the patriarch, that's the term, the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church was down there, and like all these world leaders were down there, and they were like, it was to see global warming. Bullshit. No, it wasn't. They could go to Greenland if they wanted to see glaciers melting, or to Switzerland where they already are. Like, get out of here, you know, like that's definitely not why they're down there. So that begs the question, why were so many glitterati folks down there, including like an astronaut? And this huge pulse comes out around that time. You know, not exactly, but it was within a year or so of that. And one of the cool theories I heard just for fun was that they had dug up some sort of ruins there and had triggered some ancient defensive system. And that pulse was some kind of ancient technology that was automated somehow. And that when these, you know, world elite people, archaeologist team were digging it up, that they set off some kind of defensive grid. And that's why it pulsed for a while before they could figure out how to kind of turn it off. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on, like, I don't know, I don't think it was Atlantis, but I do think that there's some kind of civilization buried under ice. And I actually think that it may even be the result of some kind of weapon, the sheets of ice that are down in Antarctica, that might have been two different high-tech civilizations in the, you know, deep antiquity, and one of which somehow caused that area to freeze, like, because there's so many persistent rumors for decades of like weird technology and civilization and buildings and even pyramids and whatever that have been found down there, that even though I know there's a lot of bullshit and lies and distraction nonsense, there's something of substance to that, I'm certain of it. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, you know, real people have, and this gentleman's a geologist, and he was a geologist that actually worked with Greg Braden on some things, and Greg Braden spoke about this as well, where down in Antarctica there is things that are on that land of minerals that should not be here. Yeah, there's a lot of things that should not be here. And it's like, okay, and you know, obviously I'm an inquisitive man. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, well,
right, what does that mean?
He's like, well, there's mountains that are there that point towards they were geoformed, that somebody has had technology to form them. and
Those
the way that they're formed.
pyramid-shaped mountains, those famous,
That's what I
like
mean.
very
And
clearly pyramidal shape.
there's certain minerals that, you know, like there's a lot of things that just are well outside of place. I'm like, cool, I can dig that. And I've heard the same with you as well. You know, you just have a look at, you know, those that can read the records and those types of things, is that, yeah, there's that there. And, you know, everybody's got an insider or whatnot, but a bloke that I know is, you know, he's generally on the money. He's wrong about a few things, but he buzzed my brain out when he said, what you're going to laugh at, he goes, you know, the movie, or the movie series Transformers. I'm like, yeah. He goes, you need to watch them, but don't fall into the Transformer characters. Actually have a look at what's going on with that. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. The first one was about a cube in Antarctica. Yeah.
Oh, really? I saw it, but I was barely paying attention. It was kind of crap, right?
The second one was about this spark that was left here by other primes, and it was in, you know, Jordan, in these types of things, and, you know, another thing. But the one where there was a Decepticon dude who was down in Antarctica, and you've got the head of the CIA director who goes to Antarctica, who does a deal with him, and he goes around the world getting all of these robots and changing them and all the rest of this stuff. But in that one there, you see a ship come in and it shoots like this, you know, beam or something, and it hits the ground and it turns the ground into all of these different things. And that's what I asked him. I'm like, oh, what do you say about that? He goes, well, what I understand with some of the technology is that's one of the phases that you would use to begin to terraform land, is by, you know, utilizing this type of stuff. And he's like, you know, we kind of have that. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, and that's what I mean. It's going to be fascinating. We're never going to be told really what that all is about, but the way that they structure the narrative to roll out, I reckon it'll need to happen between now and March.
So I mean, one of the theories that I heard, you know, theory is maybe not the right word, but yeah, I'll just say theories, but like potential narratives or whatever, is the famous Werner von Braun, Carol Rosen thing, where Werner von Braun, who was the Nazi rocket scientist brought over during Operation Paperclip, head of NASA rocketry for a number of years, he had a woman who became a doctor herself, who was his personal secretary, named Carol Rosen. It's getting harder and harder to find this video, which is telling in and of itself. But she was part of a big group of people who tried to push for some kind of disclosure through Stephen Greer's group back in May of 2001. Mm-hmm. Just a few months before a rather large historical event that changed things forever. And at that event, I'm pretty sure Carol Rosen was at that event when she spoke, but it was that same organizing group. And she came forward and said that Werner von Braun had told her that there would be a number of different things that were used to gather money to weaponize space and to gain spacefaring technology, but also mostly to weaponize space to have downward pointing weapons to control the Earth. Also spacecraft and so forth, but it seemed the main goal was to weaponize, to create an array of satellites around the Earth, essentially, that could aim anywhere on the Earth. And she said that first they would use, and had already used the threat during the Cold War of communism. Then they would use terrorism as a threat. Then they would use the threat of, I think they even maybe said something in there about weather change, but I'm not sure. But then they would use asteroids, the threat of asteroids or comets hitting the Earth, which that's been talked about a lot in the past few years. That big Zablensky or whatever, that meteorite that blew up rather famously over Russia, whatever that was, that was used, and that there should be a planetary defense thing. And they've even started to build some kind of like governmental international governmental structures around that exact principle. But then famously, she said the final card, according to Werner von Braun, would be a faked alien invasion. or a threat of an alien invasion. And all the stuff around the TikTok and or TikTok rather, and the other stuff coming out of the like New York Times, Pentagon disclosure stuff, it's all couched in, oh, never mind that 70 years of there's 75 years of us saying there's nothing. Now we have all these ex-CIA guys, that most trustworthy of organizations, coming forward and saying, well, of course there's some kind of UFOs in the sky, but they're hostile and we probably need money and maybe opaque structures to deal with this threat. And they've been like kind of seeding that more and more and more and more into the mainstream media to where it's no longer a laughing matter. It's gone from, no, it's not a laughing matter to, oh my God, it's a big threat and maybe we should do something about it, which is quite a remarkable 180-degree turn. But it's very interesting how it's being all pushed in this direction of it's a danger. So then the only question is there something out there that's dangerous? And maybe that's why the elites are worried. And dangerous for whom? Is it dangerous for us or is it dangerous for the elites or both? And is there maybe nothing out there currently that's causing us issues, but that the elites are going to fake something and bring it down? But it certainly seems like it's one of those two, that either there's something to where the elites know that there's about to be contact made, whether they want it or not, that they won't be able to hide, whether it's, the return of the Anunnaki and Planet X. I don't like that particular theory. I'm just throwing that one out there because that's a popular one. Some kind of return of some sort of a cousins of humanity that are somewhat like us, that probably are way beyond us technologically, that we're like maybe a marooned version or a genetically engineered version of that same species, or this whole idea of like a faked UFO invasion. So I threw a bunch out there, but I'm just curious your thoughts on what I was just saying.
Yeah, cool, man.
Word salad.
That's a really good summary of all of it, being able to package all of that together. For me, I look at more of the magical aspect of things, yeah.
Okay, so you think interdimensional maybe?
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at it as don't worry about the fake alien invasion. Be more curious about the Antichrist and how they set all of that up. The temple has already been built in Israel and all the rest of this type of stuff, and those systems there still need to
wait. In Israel, or do you mean the thing in the UAE where they're putting the mosque, the church, and the synagogue?
No, the third temple's in Israel. It's already been constructed. It's already there. That's what I mean. Like there.
What? You mean on the Dome of the Rock? Like when did that happen?
No, not on the Dome of the Rock. No.
Oh, someplace else. Okay. Well, tell me more about that. Go ahead.
Well, that's all set up to play that out at some stage, and that's why at the moment you get so many people that are running back to religion and utilizing it as a book of truth, but you only need to go to Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our image, like our likeness. And that should tell you the rest of the story. And the Council of Nicaea and all the rest of that stuff is that there is a book that is being presented that is basically one of the first mind control programs, like to indoctrinate somebody that they're born into sin and somebody has died for their sins. Like, come on now, 2020 thinking, not prehistoric side of things, of being able to utilize that there to keep people conformed. A lot of the laws and stuff like that have come from that book. But ultimately, when you have a look at natural law, that's what I mean. There's a lot to play out in relation to that. And you have a look at the woke Pope. It was only a few years ago where I'd christen an extraterrestrial, and you see that's what I mean. To me, the fake alien invasion, too many people know about it now. But for them to pull off a, new messiah, new savior, to bring about the utopia that everybody wants, because nobody wants to actually do any hard work.
Yeah,
you can say it's sad, but it's the reality that we're in right now. And my beliefs and my knowing is that the next couple of years is going to be so important for people to build up the innate power within themselves so that when they cast a vote, it is stronger than 1,000 people. It is stronger than 10,000 people's vote, because the reality that we have right now is what the collective is choosing to co-create. And this is what I mean. And yeah, having a look at that in relation to, the more esoteric, I look at those tea leaves and go, yeah, they're going to need to pull something out really quickly, particularly financial pop. All of these things pop. And is there a counterforce working? Absolutely. We spoke about that last time, but at the same time too, is you could say there as well, there will be understanding that humanity and each individual person needs to go through the deep psychological process that everything that they perceive in this reality is mere fiction of front-loaded programs, that this is how things are, not possibility and probability. And we're indoctrinated not to utilize our superpower, which is our imagination. I am a magician, my own nation, therefore I create my own reality by my purpose and my invocation of the way that I use words.
Yes.
With words, even the same as well with getting into the conspiratory stuff. There's a lot of that. People are spell casting. How many shit songs have you memorized that you've got running around in your head? And the moment that you hear like a 1 second of the tune, the song, you're able to recite that shit in your head.
Even if you don't want to.
That's what I mean. And so many people are plugged into YouTube at the moment, going through a political awakening journey to an agenda, that a lot of that stuff is being put out there as broadcast, as disinformation, misinformation, elements of truth into it, that are therefore regurgitating that in this time that is so malleable in our own evolution of the planet and this realm. And we're broadcasting what we're actually co-creating. It's fucking fascinating, man. Love it. So I'm out on the hill of the asylum, just looking at it all going, wow, who needs Hollywood?
Yeah, I know. Who does need any kind of entertainment anymore outside of just like reality? And I mean, like, what even is reality? At this point,
that's the ultimate thing, that's been, my kind of constitution over my journey of being like, well, that's all good in theory. Let's give it a crack. Let's see how it works. And when I get scared, I'm headed in the wrong direction.
Beautiful. That's such a simple.
Things get uncomfortable. Just hold it there for a little bit. It's okay. Things get unbearable. It's like, well, we're here now. Like, you want to back out or want to push through, go through a compression breakthrough rather than, oh shit, that's a bit hard, or I don't like that, and this is really where we're at in this compression breakthrough of many different things. We are compressing on ourselves. Can we break through and be the innate personality that is soul inspired by the mystery, or are we going to continually be inspired by shiny?
Yeah. And, another thing that's happening is that you talk about the compression breakthrough, and just like the entire process we've been talking about is, I've found over the past year and a half that I'm more and more meeting people like you. And what I mean is that I'm on a personal level connecting with people who I feel like are my peers or my soul tribe, however you want to call it. I don't know. I like that term. Gets a little too new agey for me, but do you know what I mean? People who are on the vibe, who are in the same current, and they're just like, it's almost like they're popping into existence is the way it feels. I actually met someone because of our show last time. I got a friend request, amazing fellow Australian who like goes out. I'm actually going to have her on the show, so I'll go ahead and give her a shout out here. Kara Freya. Oh, sorry for forgetting her last name, Kara. But anyways, Kara Freya Jade, I think is her name. And she's someone who follows your show, and she goes out and works with the Aboriginal elders and has for years. And just, I keep meeting all these amazing people over the past 18 months, just way more than at any point in my life. And I really believe that as you make these changes, as difficult and as uncomfortable as they are, it changes your reality, and it changes your quality of experience, and it changes who you attract into your experience. And that then gives you sort of a leaping off point to the next evolution, to the next change and breakthrough you have. And I mean, I'm super, super grateful for everything going on in my life at this point. And it's because I've leaned into that discomfort, and I have popped through and then came to more compression and then popped through, just like you're saying. It's almost like a ramjet or something, you know, and I'm like gaining velocity and momentum.
Yeah, well, that's the trick of it, man, and it's not easy. You know, I've been, you know, with a lot of, you know, my mentees and stuff like that as well. It's what I firmly focus on, is like, get the foundations right and just build the momentum, because once the momentum builds, is that you've got a velocity, you know, you're cycling your own energy, and it becomes a lot easier to look at the sacrifices we need to make. Is like, am I going to go on this side mission where I'm going to get depleted and get back to stagnant, or am I just going to keep pushing through? And just touching on, which you very eloquently put, is, and that's why my allegory is getting out into the bay in your boat. Don't worry if it's got holes or whatever, that type of shit in it. Get out in the bay, because it's where all of the people are, and it's a one-man boat. You know, some people are trying to build a fucking boat like a Noah's Ark type situation, but that's not the way through this. We need to be light. And it's like, oh, g'day, mate, how are you? We have a bit of a song and dance, share a meal or whatever, and then the current kind of moves your boat over there and I go over here. You know, there's this type of, can say almost, you know, arcane, very magical way of how things and sliding, and you can say new tribes, but for me, it's that LORE. There's a new law coming together where the bullshit is being able to be left aside, and you can take the merit upon someone's word and be like, okay, I hear you and I feel you, brother. I will hold you at that, the same standard that we're communicating at. That's the standard upon where we set the standard of foundations and all the rest of those things. Are we both going to trip over our own shoelaces? Absolutely. But I trust you and you trust me that when it comes down to lay on the sword, we will. And if there's a conversation need to be had, we can have. No problem. Yeah. Let's get back to the original nation. Yeah. Back into the circle and live with the earth. And if we all hold that as our constitution, well, things will be a lot easier.
I agree.
It's not easy. It sounds all great in theory, and you know, we can fucking drink as much kumbaya and jump on the hopium as much as possible, but there's a bit more to all of that as well.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is I've had like some friends from way back in the day, you know, who I've been sort of in touch with or whatever, but they've suddenly reappeared, like also during the same period of time, but they've had that switch go on, and they've started, you know, they're wherever they are in that process too, shedding all that kind of stuff. And I really like what you said, and what it made me think about is the way that the Aboriginal people of Australia used to go out on the walkabouts, and they'd go out and then they'd meet someone else's on a walkabout, and they'd hang out for a little while, have a fire, and then they'd spin off and they'd go spiraling off through the outback and like sort of come together. And that's, you know, of course you're Australian, so it makes me think of that. And I was thinking of it because of what I just said a minute ago, but still that image came to me really strongly. Just this spiraling around one another kind of process, you know, and then coming together. And again, it comes back to that whole thing of just hold things lightly, including yourself and like what your concept of yourself is. And by holding it lightly, it allows it to change. Anyone who's trying to hold really tight to things, or another analogy I've been given is by the spirits, several different spirits and angels have said similar thing. Right now, because we're at this changing of the ages, there's this giant river of karma, like planetary karma, that's just a raging river. And it's happening because 6,000 years of Kali Yugas, like two back-to-back Kali Yugas of about 2,700 years plus that 300-year transition period, that's like almost 6,000 years of karma that we've built up. And it's all coming up now and has to be resolved before we can then go to the next stage of evolution. And because there's this rushing river, you either go with the flow, and then you'll kind of like come to the rock and you just flow around it. If you ever see sometimes sticks that you put in the river, they'll just go right around a rock. And then other times the stick, for whatever reason, goes smack, 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 smack against the rock and gets pinned there and is, maybe even breaks from the stream. You want to be able to flow around those rocks and not get dashed against those things. And those rocks to me are these big events that we're talking about, like upcoming events, the imminent large scale die off, any kind of like narrative kaboom events, whether it's like a messianic figure appearing suddenly, or a fake alien invasion, or the discovery of an ancient civilization in Atlantis, or whatever shock and awe tactics are going to be used. Those are the rocks that are going to trigger our programming, like you talk about, that MK Ultra programming. And that's the rock that you can get smashed against. Whereas if you're holding things lightly and you're centered and you have that emotional mastery, you'll be able to flow around that and continue down the stream. So that's just my thought on what you were saying.
Yeah, great analogy, mate. Yeah, great. And that's what I mean. Like there's many folks that are holding on to the shore at the moment, and the tsunami's there, and it's going to break. And coming to understand the choices that we've made is like eating lemon diets for a month. Not going to be easy.
And just allow that. I mean, don't hurt yourself, viewer, of course, or anyone else, but allow yourself to have that breakdown, because from that breakdown can come the breakthrough in the next evolution. A lot of people want to just try and tough it out, and it's like you maybe need to just have it go and come out of you. Another thing that the virtues have said to me is that the three dark chalices of the Malachian current, like the three like sort of unholy grails are, let's see, what was it? It's fear, hatred, and sorrow. And that the three like holy chalices are tears, which might be interesting, laughter, and joy. And the tears are necessary to heal all that abuse that we've had, all that programming that we've had, all that like coming to grips with the grief of, oh my God, I've been lied to about so much. I don't even know who I am. And grieving that former world that's now passing away, grieving actual losses you're having, and grieving just the loss of who you thought you were. And those tears can be really cleansing and healing. And then there's laughter, and laughter is infectious, and it can just really lift your spirits, but there's nothing more infectious, and there's nothing that lifts people up more than joy. And that's what you experience when, that's why often you'll see like elderly people will come over and watch the kids that are playing, because the kids don't have all this programming yet. They have some, but they don't have as much. So they're able to tap into that joy so much more easily. And even these bitter old people will be like, when they watch the little kids playing with all that joy, it's infectious. And so for a lot of people, if you're feeling numb, or you're feeling hurt or frightened or angry or whatever, anger is the guardian of sadness. Let that sadness flow through you and just let it break you apart for a minute, and then see what happens. And you're probably going to feel a lot more clear and a lot more like you can go on and go in a different direction. If you just try and tough it out and you try and hold things with the white knuckle grip, you're going to end up having those tears and that breakdown anyway. And the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be. And so find yourself a safe container that you can do that in. Maybe with someone who can check up on you. I don't want anyone to end up hurting themselves or anyone else, but I've had a lot of breakdowns before my breakthroughs over the course of my life.
It's part of the deal. I know a lot of people want to just go, oh yeah, I've cleared 10 past lives. It's like, come on now, like work with somebody who knows some things. I just want to add something, mate, because it was a good one. It was a good one for me. What you were just talking about there is the coat hanger, metal coat hanger. When we bend it, we keep bending it, and then it snaps. Like, this is what I mean by our thinking. Our thinking thinks that, oh yeah, it goes like that. We weaken it, and then it snaps. It's like, no, we move it heaps, and it actually gets harder and harder, and then gets to a point where it breaks. And we are our own resistance. Or we get to a point of, do we just keep going down a road, or through doorways that have already been closed? And is it our own sub-personalities that like, oh, I know better, even though to be like, hang on, let's evaluate this for a moment. I don't need to lay on my sword and utilize a little bit of alchemy of time, utilizing magic, to then go, okay, here's the new direction and get on that, rather than going up against something because of what we think we want and what we think we need. And a little bit of a pot shot out there with the new age stuff is there's still a lot of people at the moment that I want to manifest this and this and this and this and this. The only reflection they're getting back is to prop up their ego.
Mm-hmm.
Is it actually really what they need, or is it what they want? And this is what we're in this time now, where what we want is very childlike. What we need is more adult-like. Are we going to come into actually being the foremothers and forefathers of the next 7 future generations? Or are we going to keep running around doing, I want, I demand, because I need to have all of these front-loaded programs. And that's what I mean, circling right back, but the psychological fallout for all of that is going to be fucking intense.
Yeah, it's really true. Well, we can go a bit longer if you'd like, Grant, or I know I've kept you for a while here. How are you feeling? You want to go a little bit longer?
Far away, though. We can go. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, then let's see. What was the other thing that I wanted to ask you about from last time? I'm trying to think. I mean, gosh, so much of what you said today has been just, it really helps, I feel like, for people to just realize that, like, it's not, there isn't any cookie cutter solution, and there isn't any cookie cutter answer to like what's really going on. Grant and I think we would both agree that we probably, know more, have a little bit of a better idea of what's going on. But I think we had to also both admit that we really don't and can't know what's truly going on. First of all, there's simply too many forces at work for the human mind to comprehend it all, that even if you had perfect information, you wouldn't be able to comprehend it all. And I mean, this is exactly the issue the elites are running into. And one of the things that gives me tremendous hope is, I had a very wise man tell me once, there's people who think they control the world, but they have to sleep. The universe never sleeps. And I really like that, because it's so true. There's these people who are incredibly intelligent, who have mind-boggling IQs, who, have total mastery or very close to it of, certain magical techniques, who've been running things for thousands and thousands of years. But they're running up against something now that is irresistible, and that's natural law. There's something that just trumps everything else in the world, and it's that there's certain features to how reality works that are unassailable, and they're cyclical. And we're coming to the tail end of a major cycle, or actually even there's cycles within cycles. I mean, there's like wheels within wheels on this, but we're coming to a point in reality, or time space, where a number of things that have been a certain way for a long, long time just simply will not work that way anymore. And the controllers, just to use a catch-all term that's not, too heated or whatever, the controllers of the world, the back-end people, as you like to call them, they're running into a problem now, because their methods, which have worked for a long, long time, which are very sophisticated, are no longer going to be simply allowed to work. Their time is coming to a close. And some of them seem to be accepting of that, but are still wanting to retain some amount of status and position. And those will be the ones who will survive, in my opinion. And then there's some who think that maybe there's a chance that they can resist this change. And then there's some who are just so certain, so filled with hubris, that they're utterly certain that they'll be able to continue some version of what they have. And their solution seems to be, we're going to do this, to use a catch-all term, great reset. We're going to really change things. Well, I have been told, and for what it's worth, by angels, that in fact, they're right, that there is a great reset that's happening, but it's that river of karma. There's a reset in the karmic structure. There's a reset in the spiritual structure, but it's not the way they think it's going to go at all. And that the reason they think it's going to go that way is that they've had thousands of years of their own prophecy, which they keep secret to themselves. It's been leading up to this time, but it's all wrong. And that it was set up that way so that this time period could happen, because they think that, oh, well, if we just do shock and awe and we do all this kind of stuff and change everything and create the giant ritual sacrifice, it's going to forever solidify our power and we'll never have to ever again do anything because we'll have total control for the rest of time. But that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that they're going to try and implement that. And by the very attempt to implement that, that's what's going to cause all the people to break through in the ways that we've been talking about, sort of in response to that pressure. So you don't have to agree with that. I'm just curious what you think about.
Yeah, I can add some things to that, because what you said there is all really relevant. We're in the changeover years, 2020 to 2030.
Yes.
And those people that you're talking about, they don't have now the people above them that might have scaly skin to implement certain things anymore. So what they're trying to do is to implement AI to be able to run everything, and that there just isn't working. Like because they don't have that next layer of, let's say, control above them, being able to hold their hand through many different things, is that you've got a lot of fuck ups happening. You've got no real people there, that they're not creative. Yeah, they're void of those types of things. They're more vampiric. A lot of their inspiration comes from mimicking and then inverting it and then reversing it, and continually to be running the same playbook. But even magically, that isn't working at all anymore. So the implementation of AI systems and AI magic and all the rest of that type of stuff, and we've been initiated firmly into that since Nintendo. Even before that, you can go to Atari and, Space Invaders and those types of things there, with having other mechanisms where we can be a player in a game playing out a fantasy. It's why we have the Metaverse side of things now. And even, you have a look at all of the symbolic and spellcasting in relation to all of those things and everything that is going on at the moment. We're in for a hell of a ride to be able to witness all of that. And how much of our own integrity do we keep to ourselves? And just lastly as well, is that there's obviously many different factions. They're all falling apart. And I utilize the language of New Babylon Project and the New Jerusalem Project. The New Babylon Project is to have a wipeout. That hasn't worked. Where the other one is, more of the Roths, like the Rocks were more about let's do a big wipeout. The Roths are the ones playing this, new build back better, great reset type thing. And that isn't.
When you say I just want to get clarification. When you say a wipeout, are you talking about a financial one, or are you talking about the depopulation?
Depop, yeah, a depop, yeah.
Okay, please continue. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. The New Babylon is that, which is America. And then you got the New Jerusalem, which is more to do with the UK and Israel and that stuff, and Europe with the Roths. And, their whole thing is green, the green man, Pan, all the rest of these different things. So in their symbolic architecture of moving from spell casting and rituals into very much AI stuff, you just need to have a look at the ceremonies at CERN and all of those different things. So, but even that there in its implementation of how they want to play that out, things aren't working. Things aren't going according to plan for, numerous reasons. One of them is not so much the call out, but they've had to rush so quickly now to try and get things done. And they're out of sequence with many different things. Like the so-called plan was to have the CCP basically take over Australia and have North Korea have a war with the US, and the CCP yarn, not China, CCP, have that as the global system of implementation over the whole world. They did not expect for things to go the way that they wanted to. So hence the beer bug and the theater that goes on with that and many other things. And we're at a stage right now where the petrodollar system is done, that there is a value of exchange. Yeah, like our energy, we utilize our energy to get something that is fictional, Babylonian money magic. That system there is done, completed, falling apart. The same as the CCP. Their financial system in relation to all of that is essentially done as well. So where we're at, that's what I mean. There's so many moving parts. And that's why I'm, saying devolution, because it'd be all good and well to pull out your crystal ball and go, oh, this is what's going to happen. It's like, well, you need to position accordingly and be able to move with certain things, because we're in for a hell of a ride. Things can happen very, very quickly. And if we're not paying attention, it's going to be difficult, really difficult.
Do you have a sense of when the financial house of cards is going to come down? Because it seems like that's keyed into like right before spring. It seems. That's just my read. I'm curious what you see in terms of how that's gonna.
Well, I've been wrong. Okay, the thing I've been wrong about is I've been wrong with dates, and I know why, because it kicked the can down the road. Like,
they're amazing.
Where inflation was in September of this year, I was expecting that in like February or March. Yeah. And this Evergrande thing that's happened like in the last 24 hours, I was expecting that a month and a half ago.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're amazing for kicking the can down the road. Well,
this is what I mean. There is no real kicking the can down the road any further. You have a look at the supply chain, like this AdBlue situation, like we're now in Australia, in all the major newspapers, it's talking about, we could have a supply chain crisis come the end of February. That it's controlled, because what needs to happen is that the globalization structure that's tied to the US petrodollar and all of the other things needs to implode, so that what there is next can be rolled out. There is no not dealing with that. Whether that be Great Reset or whatever that is, we need to get to that junction. There is not going to be a click of a finger. Oh, you know what? Everybody's fucking debt forgiveness and yada, yada, yada. And, everyone's shooting rainbows at it. That is not going to fucking happen. And a lot of people are really caught up with that.
You're talking about the Nasara idea or whatever? Or the various, do you know what I'm talking about? That
I know exactly what you're talking about, and this is what I mean. Like, a lot of folks are really caught in it. Once that's enacted, everything's going to be rosy, and it's like, you know what? Like, just stop for a moment. And I've had a few people have a crack at me, and I'll wear it, because I've had to go. You've got some Dunning-Kruger going on. You don't know what you don't know, and what you don't know is these systems upon systems and all of that stuff is massive in its undertaking. And to think you're going to have 7 billion people go, oh yes, this is all fucking rosy, and we fucking learn anything, we are not. And what I see is the pancakes have all been kicked down the road to try and line up as much as possible. So one pops, it's rolling. Because then you're going to have a lot of people who are broadcasting the situation that we're in. They're going to turn around to Big Daddy government again and go, please help us. And then there's going to be a whole other range of people that are like, we're done. And this is what I mean. We're at this balancing point right now, because those bureaucrats that I was talking about at the very start, who are they going to be more fearful of in the next month or so? Is it still going to be the people that run them, that they're realizing now that they're about to be scapegoated? Or is it going to be the people? And that's really the place setters right now worldwide is at that level, because politically it's done, media gatekeepers done. It's at that point now of like it needs to play itself out. We're at this championship round, so to speak.
Yeah, God, it's I just I wonder, like, you know, how badly things are going to unravel. I really wonder that, you know, like, I mean, you're there in Australia. Do you have Mel Gibson's phone number or any classic 70s big block engines just in case?
I'm set, dude. Like I've the way that I've positioned myself for everybody out there is that I haven't gone down the preppers path yet. I'm right for food and all the rest of it. For me, it's to be able to have the flexibility as much as possible and to be light on my feet. Because when I look at things, every single fucking thing is in a state of crumbling under its own shaky foundations. And I want to be light on my feet to be able to move, because I see a world of possibility and a world of opportunity. And I don't want to get fixated of, okay. And so it's like that. I know a lot of people are like, you know, prepping and, you know, that's their choice. For me, it's like, I want to be light on my feet, because I don't necessarily, you know, people might think I'm crazy for this. I don't want to be on the hill, staying on the hill, looking at the asylum. I want to come back into the asylum at some stage, and in all of its craziness and all the rest of it, and actually view it and experience it and see it for the game that it is, in the facades, in all of those things that are really falling apart. Because for me, I think that is the only way that we can have very tangible and rational thinking of being able to create transitional systems, rather than being on the hill and getting righteous in this game of zealots. And if people just done this, it would be fine. It's like you're still emanating the programs that you've been enslaved with.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you should say that. And I was just kidding. I love to make Mad Max jokes, because, you know, that movie has really stood the test of time, you know.
It has, man. Yeah, it has.
As relevant as ever, if not more relevant. But great movie, Road Warrior, amazing. But anyways, being more serious, I want to share a message that's going to be actually in the prophecy that probably should be shared on my Facebook by the time this goes up. The virtue said specifically that people should have food and water, and they should have medicine, specifically herbal medicine, not the medicine of Babylon, if you want to use that term. You know, that's very much a Rockefeller thing. Unless, you know, there's something you need for whatever reason. But if you're healthy, you want to have more like generalized immune booster herbal medicines. And then mostly you just want to do the inner work, because if you do that inner work, that's going to have a much bigger impact on how you're able to navigate than any amount of stockpiling. You know, I mean, I'm here in America, and I'm pretty sure, I feel pretty confident saying that this is the prepper capital of the planet. And there's people here who have stupid amounts of weapons and bunkers.
Bro, that's what I mean.
People have freaking tanks here.
I was having a chat to, you know, he's a friend of mine. He's over there in the state. Won't say where or whatnot. And he's got a fair bit of coin. And his whole thing is gold, silver, and fucking ammo. He's like, man, if any motherfucker comes here, he goes, they're going to have to bring a fucking country, because I ain't going fucking nowhere. And I know what he's like. And I'm like, fuck, this bloke would like be like some fucking Rambo shit, you know, like.
I know. That's why I never worry about
full Frank Castle from fucking Punisher, just like. and you guys are over there. You've got thousands of people that are like that are trained.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That are trained, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, if ever, I don't worry too much about like like the government going full-blown despotic in America, just because I'm like, well, let them try, because like there's no, I mean, it would have to be such a I mean, the federal government, if they were ever to attack the citizenry of the United States, they would have to be so over the top that it would be worse than anything they've ever done to any country they've ever invaded. I'm talking like unbelievable. And it would have to be such a scorched earth policy that what would even be the point? There'd be nothing left. That's the only way they could deal with it. Because if they ever tried to just go in and go door to door and take people's firearms,
well, that's what I mean.
That would go poorly.
That's part of that's what I mean. Like, that's part of one of the plans, is to have that set off. But
oh yeah,
it won't be the government fighting the people. It will be the Manchurian candidates in certain cities that have politicized ideology, which has happened, that think that all of these people are neo-Nazis and they should, like,
that would be over in about 2 hours, and the rural people would win.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I mean. Like, it's going to be fascinating to watch all of those things play out, because every single agenda, that's what I mean, like, is out of sequence. It's even falling apart on itself, and it's like, we're in the final season of the game. And do you want to be watching it continuously and then playing it out as it happens and watching it and okay, there's some spiritual work I can do here to buffer some things, or whatever that is? Because even here in Australia, is that the frustration, we spoke about this earlier, is the level of anger. Like, I mentioned this a couple of years ago, and over there in the States, there's countless people where, I'll just use a bloke's name, Robbo. Robbo's from down there in Ballarat. Yeah, Robbo's just your typical, Aussie battler type bloke. Likes to have a punt, works hard. But Robbo lost his wife about 10, 15 years ago. And, he had 2 daughters, and it messed up his whole life. Yeah, like, Robbo's not Robbo anymore. How do you reckon he's going to go when he finds out that it was actually the pharmaceutical companies that killed his wife?
Right.
Their actual medicine.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the psychological fallout.
And people are still in the denial and shock stage.
That's what I mean, and that's going to be massive in its undertaking of that process there. But that's going to hurt, and a lot of, I'm going to use the term blokes, they're going to go AWOL. They're going to be like, I'm going out in a blaze of glory.
Yep. There's a bunch of people that have been that's what they've been smoking in their pipe for like 20, 30, sometimes 40 years here in the States. People have been like having wet dreams for decades about a situation that basically exactly like what's on the horizon. And again, I don't want any part of that. I'm not, I will be like far, far away, viewing it through my telescope, going, wow. And then, I'm totally willing to go help clean up once everyone's calmed down. But I will say this, I do recommend that if you have the means to not be in a city, that's probably advisable. Like, or at least on the peripheries of the city. I'm outside of any major city. I pushed very hard to get my son's mother and her partner out of Portland, which they did move. And, if you're able to, cities, probably you don't want to be in them. And then just make sure you have food and water, and don't get involved. Just don't get involved, because when people lose it, and that does seem very likely, if not certain, if you aren't involved, you're not vibrating at the level they are. what I mean by that is that all throughout history, whenever there's like big conflicts or societal breakdowns or whatever, some people go rogue, exactly like Grant is talking about. They just go silverback gorilla, tearing up the log, flipping out, and throwing it around, because, well, we're primates, at least partially. And that's going to happen. But the thing is that guys will do that against one another, and they'll be afraid and they'll be violent and they'll be hyped up. But people who are just chill and like kind of doing their own thing and staying well away from it, usually they're fine. It's a funny thing. It always happens, but it's the energy. When there's a bunch of guys out there all like trying to attack each other and whatever, and then people are moving calmly off, and you don't want to go through the middle of it, but off to the side, just doing their own thing and being calm and going about their business and remaining calm, they magically don't draw the attention of these people who are going ape shit, whether it's cops who are trying to they're like, we got to keep society together, military, whatever, or, maybe bands of local guys who are doing that. And then people are just losing their mind, or criminals or whatever. They're all going to zero in on and feel the energy of one another and go at one another. So if you just keep your head down and you just chill and go about your thing and don't get involved, you'll probably be you will probably be fine. But if you get sucked into that, if you start being like, something has to be done, that's probably not going to go well for you. And I mean, I can't guarantee that, but I would just advise anyone, don't get involved in that. Those are those rocks we were talking about earlier. I mean, you got to do what you got to do and what your soul is called to do. I personally want no part of any of that. And I'll help people once people have calmed the fuck down. But there's going to be a lot of people getting crazy before there's going to be that calming down. And then,
look, the mind control is already breaking, and it's, it's going to be fascinating. The war, so to speak, has many fronts. And the first front is the psychological driving. The second is the amount of information that is being pumped in. And the third one is everybody's adrenals are absolutely cooked right now. And the emotional reactivity, having a compromised nervous system like that, there is no rational thinking. There is only an acting out. And, your viewers are going to understand this, is that we have a majority of the Western world that are still, they're adolescent adults.
Yes.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was 15, I couldn't be told shit.
Right.
Until tragedy happened. And then I had to, lick my wound, so to speak. And a fuckload of humble foe. And but that's really where we're at,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when we're teenagers, we need to do things like 3 or 4 times until we finally get that lesson. This is what we're going through right now. 1, 2, some are going to go get 3, 4. Oh, let's do the kids as well. Like, whoa. That's big.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Well, I just want to leave viewers on a positive note, and I will ask you a question here as well. I just want to say that, some of the stuff that Grant and I have been talking about, I'm sure, like, if you're not kind of hip to all the things that we're talking about, that it can sound pretty scary and overwhelming. But really, what is being called to be done, as much as there is this incredible, like, theater that is current reality and everything that's unfolding, it's kind of jaw-dropping and hard to take your eyes off it. The real emphasis and what's really being asked of you by Spirit when all of this is going on is to go back within. Despite all the noise out there, go back within. Work on your shadow. Work on those parts of yourself that just aren't working anymore. And you either need to evolve that and change it, or you need to let it go. Like Grant's been saying, you need to sacrifice that in the altar. That's what's being asked of us right now. Being in denial of our shadow is something I see very, very commonly among a lot of, especially like new age people. Oh, it's all love and light. It's all love and light. And oh, I'm just holding that love and light frequency. Hey, that's beautiful. But if you don't integrate your shadow, it's going to come out in nasty ways, and it's going to be reflected back to you by your external experience. And you're going to be subconsciously attracted to situations that are going to cause that shadow to come up. And so integrating your shadow is one of the best preventative medicines you can do before this chaos that Grant and I are talking about, which will be, you know, it'll be long in that most of the people in the Western world haven't really experienced, unless you live in Russia, right, where they had their big collapse. Unless you've been in some country where there's been a big collapse of a regime, if you haven't experienced that, then it will be a long, extended period of chaos from your point of view. But it'll really only be a few years. And once you get through that, there's going to be something completely different. So the key is getting through that and, you know, hunkering down, avoiding conflict, and working on yourself, working internally, especially. It's going to change what you experience in your external world. It's going to change your vibration. It's going to cause you to attract circumstances to you that are different, to where you're going to be able to wiggle through. Consider that they went up into the mountains of Bavaria in the late 40s to interview villagers in small, tiny villages up in the mountains of Bavaria and ask them what they thought about World War II. And they went up there and they asked these people that, and the people go, what? And they go, well, yeah, the gigantic war that just happened. And they go, do you mean the one 20 years ago, the Great War? We've heard about that. And they go, no, the one that literally just ended like 2 years ago. And they go, oh, well, we did see all those planes flying above, and we did see all those flashes in the distance. But, so there was another war, like that Great War. They didn't know. It didn't really impact them. So you can get through these kind of time periods. It's very possible. But the key is that you need to be, like Grant says, flexible and light of foot and adaptable. And you also need to do that internal work, because if you still are carrying around a lot of shadow, a lot of denied shadow of yourself, if you have a lot of repressed material, a lot of trauma that you've been avoiding because you just have a good drink or you smoke a lot of weed, that's real common where I live, or whatever, to suppress that rather than actually deal with it, that shit's going to come back up. And so the best thing you could do, forget prepping, all that, do that inner work. That's going to pay way more dividends than anything else. And one last final analogy, and then I want to hear from you, Grant, what you would advise people to do is, there's a movie called Saving Private Ryan where they storm the beaches at Normandy. And this guy has a helmet on, and they're going up the beach, and a sniper bullet comes and it goes patang off the helmet. And everyone around him goes, holy shit. And he takes off his helmet to look at it. And then he gets shot right after that because he took his helmet off. But the point of that is that all these guys are running up the beach, and a lot of them just killed right away. And some of them just go, and the bullets are like, you know, and their hair comes up from the bullet going right over them, and they just move through it somehow. It's just grace. But what can increase that opportunity and chance for grace of moving through that chaos is to do that inner work. Seriously, that's what's going to get you to be able to weave through the kind of stuff that Grant and I are talking about. And so rather than get all freaked out and frightened, instead go, oh, wow, all this scared feelings and stuff are coming up. Work with that material. What's triggering it? Go to the root of that and start to see, is this something I can let go? Is this something I need to grieve, that chalice of tears? You know, is this something I can have a laugh at myself about maybe? You know, or how do I rediscover joy? All these kinds of things where you do that inner work, that inner alchemy, is going to prepare you for this time far better than unlimited pallets of ammo. Because all it takes is that guy goes and he goes in, oh, I got it sold. And he goes and opens a can of beans and he didn't check the date on it. It's got botulism in it. Falls over dead on his pile of Krugerrands and M60 bullets. You know, or a rat comes in and he gets, you know, some disease from the rat that gets in there. No amount of preparation is going to save you. Preparation does help, but doing that inner work is going to do far more. And there'll be people who have nothing today that will survive, and there'll be people who are sitting in a bunker today who won't. It's eventually it's just grace, and giving it up to that grace and surrendering to that, and finding that peace within you. And so that's what I would say, because I know we've been talking about some dark stuff today. I find this kind of stuff fascinating. I don't have the same kind of emotional reaction I once did. And so for me, it doesn't bother me as much, but I know for
it has to be on the table. It has to be on the table for
it really does too. I mean, it's time for us to be adults.
If it's not on the table for review,
yeah,
you need to get your head out of your ass and have some tough love, because the time of being, I can't take that because I'm my feelings. It's like, you're no good to nobody.
Yeah.
You're no good to nobody. What?
Yeah.
Well, everything's going to need to stop because you've had an emotion. Like, it's game time now. Yeah, it is game time.
Yeah. Yep.
And the way that I'll finish this is that right
Go ahead.
now is we are seeding the greatest generation that has ever walked the earth.
I agree.
Okay. And it's not us. It's going to be the next generation. What they are about to go through, we and our parents went through the Second World War and had that type of experience. We're going to have that again, but this time around, it'll be new systems being born and a different rebuilding. Yeah. And the responsibility that we have, those that are, can say awake and aware at the moment, yes, there's plenty to fucking do, but to be the torchbearers, to make that happen, because the psychological fallout and the conditioning needs to be addressed.
Yes.
And be in an emotional overwhelmed state continually, where we're more worried about someone's emotions rather than the facts, and a little bit of, some tough love. We need to get things going here, is going to be the stone upon we carve that carves the new world. And yes, we're deciding that right now. Are we going to go back and say, oh, this is what we want? We want a new, all the things that we kind of already know. Are we going to recreate that, thinking that, oh, yes, that worked once, let's implement it again? Or hang on a moment. There is a time of transition. There is a time of renewal. And this is the way that we need to go about it. This is positive, but it has a bit of a thing for people to consider. There's an old saying, and I think it's in Apocalypto, the movie with Mel Gibson wrote, where about people that have been touched by fear, is to leave them alone, because it is contagious and they will only wear you down. Mm-hmm. And we're at this stage of the game right now, like we spoke about it earlier, where there's those that are out in the bay that that you can trust, that will do their own thing and all the rest of it. And then there's a whole heap of others that say all the right things, act in particular ways, but they're still playing around in emotional manipulation to get what they want. And they're more interested in getting what they want than doing what is needed. And that there is the constitution, or the themes that will be from the back end of next year to 2025. Like, we are going to have to focus on exactly what we need. Mm-hmm. And what does that energy thing look like? Not, I want to have all of these things. And that's also going to be heartbreaking for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I agree. That's
I want the dream cabin in the woods, and all of this abundance, and I'm going to manifest abundance and all. Some people are going to be able to do that because they've positioned themselves accordingly and have the skill sets to be able to create it. But for a lot of folks to sit there and magically think that is going to happen, that there is the ultimate opportunity. The shadow is now going to be the external world, and how we decide to play. What a fucking game to play. Exciting. And that's what is going to create the greatest generation that's walked the earth.
Yeah. Wow. Well, very well said. Well, thank you so much, Grant. And it's granteagles.com, which has been playing beneath this, which I will have added in the editing booth afterwards. But Grant, thank you. It's a pleasure, as always. Hope to have you again on in the future. fantastic. I really like that we have this part 2. And so thank you so much. And thank you, viewers. And look forward to seeing you next time. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.